Okay, I think this is live, possibly. Okay, I think this is live now. So hi, hi. It's really weird making these and then knowing at least one other person is watching. You start to like, I don't know. And I've been filming for like 6 months. You'd think I'd be okay with this by now. So this is the weekly writing update. If you are watching this now, you're either from the general public or you are a Patreon. If you're watching it later, you're definitely a Patreon. They're the only ones who are going to have the access to the link. If you are from the general public, basically every week or so, maybe twice a week, I tell the writer to tell my Patreons what I'm up to. I talk to them. Pretty much, we get into some really weedy details, like ridiculous. They get incredibly ridiculous spoilers to the fact that I can't believe any of them and want to read the story later. And then I also asked if anybody had any questions, I would answer them here. So I actually did get a couple of questions. I just got a question about 10 minutes ago from Susan. And Susan asked me if I would be willing to take on a story that another author had adopted or abandoned. Yes and no. This is actually something I used to do all the time, maybe 15 years ago when I was writing. I never adopted somebody else's story, but I had an author adopt one of mine, Secrets Kept. I wrote a couple of chapters of it, and then someone else took it over, and then they finished it. That was Sherry. It's on her board somewhere. I don't know if her board is still around because it was on Easy Board or Yuku, and a lot of those boards didn't survive the Tapatalk migration. But would I take over somebody else's story? Yes and no. Only if I had permission and only if the story spoke to me. Generally, I would. I don't know. I need to have my own inspiration, but I take ideas all the time. That's the whole purpose of the flash fiction series. So yes, I would be open to it, but only if the author wanted me to. I mean, I can't imagine I would feel happy if someone took over one of my stories without permission. So that would be weird. So that was just one of the questions I got. And then I got another question as a comment on one of my flash fictions. Basically hoping that I go back to other flash fictions. They're happy that I'm back writing them, and they were hoping that I would write a different series. The caveat with flash fictions is that you're never guaranteed that I'm going to continue any of them unless I tell you. And this particular set of flash fictions I started this week, I am going to finish them because of the way I set them up. And sorry, my phone is just right next to me. I keep looking at it for some reason. So I probably won't be going back to a lot of my older ones. Maybe. I haven't decided yet, but that's the whole point of doing these flash fictions is to get a couple of ideas out of my head without all of the drama I put and anxiety I put into my actual writing now. So I started my flash fiction series featured this week, and I really loved it. I wrote 3 different stories that were just brand new. I didn't even really do a lot of thinking about them, and I'm really excited to do all of them. The Everlasting Love didn't get as many responses as the other 2, and that's totally fine. It's a Western historical romance, and I'm not really expecting it to. But I was really excited. It was really fun to write it, and it's been really fun to think about it because I'm not the kind of beauty of knowing that I'm writing them as a series, but not actually sitting down to write anything until I sit down with my timer for 20 minutes is I do a lot of thinking about it in my head. So I kind of already know where I want all the stories to go, but you can always know where you want a story to go. And then you sit down and you write it. So that's kind of really fun. When I did the flash fiction series this week, I was not expecting everybody to be so I've gotten 15 comments on the last 2, and it's really great. I hope that everybody continues to enjoy them. I'm going to be posting them 3 times a week for the foreseeable future. When I finish one story, I'm going to take it and I'm going to edit it, and it's going to be put up onto the main site. And I'm going to distribute the fan fiction, and it's going to be a short story, a novella, whatever it ends up being. The Western romance is probably going to be more of a short story because it's not a lot of conflict there. Desperate Measures and whatever it takes will probably be a bit longer, like the novella situation. Once I finish one, I will just start another flash fiction series. So if you are a Crimson obsessed Patreon, you get to request one as your story benefit. And if you're not, you can always request it too. If you're not, I can't guarantee it unless it speaks to me. So that's the flash fiction kind of update. That's what I was up to this week. The main thing I was working on this week was Mad World, and I'm sure people are very excited to hear that. I'm going to be honest, I was actually starting to get nervous. So last week in my writing update, I told you guys I was going to start it last Monday, and then I didn't. I didn't start it on Monday, and I did not start it on Tuesday, and then I did not start it on Wednesday, and I started to get kind of nervous. And I have my reasons for that. Mostly it was grades were due this week. I had a job interview on Thursday, so I had to prepare for that. And then, the world outside was just like really messing with my head. Like just like creatively, I didn't want to sit down and write a story where a lot of my main characters are cops. Like my brain was just not there. So it took me a little bit to get into it. But then once I started working on moving Mad World over to Crimson Glass, I started to get excited again, and started to really think about what I want to write. And then I did a quick live stream for people on Thursday? I don't remember now. Probably Thursday, because I was wearing makeup, and I generally like to be wearing makeup when I do these live streams. And I think I just talked about the way I was thinking about the second half of the story, because I knew Elizabeth's storyline the first half, but like she was a little bit after she gives birth, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with her. So I started to really think about I started to kind of figure that out, and that's what I was talking about on Wednesday. But I hadn't started writing the story, and I was starting to get really, really nervous about, is this ever going to happen? Like, this is like now the second time I've gone into an alpha draft with Mad World and just been like, it's never going to happen. And then Friday, I sat down and I forced myself. I just like, no, we are going to write, even if it's just a little bit. And I wrote an Emily and Monica scene that I do not like, by the way. What I had written before this week was 3 scenes in chapter 1 with a Jason Elizabeth scene, Elizabeth and Monica, and then Jason, Alan, and Lila. My first 3 scenes, and then I hadn't touched it in like a month. Those 3 scenes are fine. I really don't like the Emily and Monica scene, and I'm not. So like the first 4 scenes, I'm really kind of uneven about. I think it's first chapter jitters. I have to put myself back into this world, and this world of Mad World is very different than Broken Girl, which is what I've been living with for the last 7 months. And I haven't worked on Mad World at all since I finished book 2. Not really since. And when did I finish book 2? Like last July. So I haven't looked at the story in like 10 months, and I haven't really been dealing with these characters. So I always knew it was going to take me a bit to get into it. So chapter 1 is definitely uneven, and I'm probably going to have to go back and rewrite it in edits. I am not touching it now because it does what it needs to do. But yesterday, I wrote a Jason, Justice, and Bernie scene, and a Sunny scene, all 4 of them. And I really liked it. It did something really different I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting Jason to do something. So those of you guys who've been reading the updates all along know that I'm giving Elizabeth a condition called CTEPH, where it's a type of pulmonary hypertension in the lungs. She's going to need surgery. It's going to make childbirth a little bit more dangerous. And I had planned that Jason and Elizabeth were going to keep it completely to themselves. Only Monica knows because she is Elizabeth's doctor. They would completely keep it to themselves until they came back from their honeymoon, and then they were going to like admit it, but like, they wanted this kind of time for themselves. And then I was writing this scene, and I wrote this comment from Sunny about being angry that Jason is making them do all this, because like it's this. Elizabeth asked for a church wedding. She wanted a church wedding and a reception. And Sunny is flipping out because Rick's still out there. I mean, Rick has been out there for 4 months, but as you guys know who have been reading the updates, he's basically disappeared. It's been like a month since they've heard anything. Jason's not holding it up. And with this new condition, the fact that Elizabeth might not live past delivering, but like she might not even live to deliver Cameron, he's going to give her the wedding. Like he's like, she wants a church wedding. It's safe enough to give her a church wedding. Just get the goddamn wedding. And Sunny's just like angry that Jason is picking this fight. Like you have to put us all in danger so she can have a stupid wedding. And Jason's not telling him why, because he doesn't really trust Sunny the same way, because as I'm going to get into it, their relationship is really taking a turn for the worse. And Justice is also taking the brunt of that. So Justice is like, every time he comes, he goes to Carly and screams at her about security. And then he comes to me trying to file for sole custody, and I have to win that fight every time. Do you know how many times I've had to do that? Why are you picking a fight over this wedding that we don't? I mean, couldn't you have something smaller? Like, couldn't this wait? Like, you guys can have a small summer now and like have a big one in the summer when we finally find Rick. And Jason realizes he's asking Justice to take this. I'm like, yeah, he knows every time Justice has this argument with Sunny, because when Justice wins the argument, Sunny's still pissed, and he comes over and yells at Jason and wants to fire Justice. Like, Sunny's out of control, and it's starting to really piss Jason off. And so, but he really looks at Justice and Bernie and realizes, I'm leaving for 2 weeks to give Elizabeth 2 weeks of peace and quiet, because she needs it. Her condition, because they have 5 weeks before Elizabeth can safely deliver the baby and then have the surgery she needs to cure her condition. And if she doesn't make it through, like, it's going to be like, he wants to do whatever he can do to give her that space. So he's taking her away on a honeymoon, but he's asking Justice and Bernie to kind of take on the stress of dealing with Sunny and keeping Sunny away from Jason at this point. And he realizes, I am asking them to do this. I kind of got to tell them why. And so he, in chapter 1, when I wasn't really realizing he was going to do it, he tells them about Elizabeth. He tells them about Elizabeth's condition. And that's actually the first time the reader knows what it is. Like, I've been leading through it, and like, you know that something's wrong, and Monica knows there's something wrong, but look, nope, I haven't put it on the page yet. And I wasn't expecting to necessarily put it on the page in this chapter. In that scene, I wasn't expecting Jason to come forward and admit it. So that was kind of interesting. It's one of the fun things about writing is I can plan for things to happen. Once you start doing the dialogue, the characters are going to, if you have set up your story well enough, characters start doing different things. They start really doing their own thing. That's what happened in Broken Girl when Jason and Elizabeth had that conversation in chapter 8, where they admit they were in love with each other 4 years ago. I'm like, they weren't supposed to do that. And then they kept doing that shit. It was very frustrating to me because I'm like, I keep having to change what I'm going to write. And the fact of it is that I have made other characters really aware of the split between Jason and Sunny. And I'm like, well, I can do something with that. So in chapter 2, I did 3 scenes. I wrote them all today. I wrote 4,000 words today. So there's your writing update. I'm pretty excited about it. I've written about 7,000 words for the story altogether since I started writing it. So that's actually a pretty good first week. But the 3 scenes I wrote today are the 3 scenes. I'm like, I've finally got it. I have gotten into the story. I have the world. I don't have enough Elizabeth yet, and that's fine. She's gonna come back in the end of the chapter. But I have the characters. There's the Jason and Elizabeth get married in the first scene, but it's not from either of their point of view. I made it from Taggart's point of view because I thought because Taggart's gonna get invited to the wedding because Elizabeth is gonna invite him, and Taggart can't say no to Elizabeth. So that's kind of the fun thing. When I started the chapter 2, I really struggled with how I was gonna put their wedding on the page, and so I decided that I was going to make it from a different point of view. And I thought maybe I'll make it Edward, maybe I'll make it Monica, I don't know, something. But none of that worked until I decided Taggart's probably going to be the wedding, right? I mean, I have Ned at the wedding. I have Edward at the wedding. Why not Taggart? Because Elizabeth would totally invite him, and Taggart would totally be like, fine, just the wedding, not the reception. I will not party with Jason Morgan, but I will go see you get married because he's got a lot of guilt for what happened with Lansing. He's got a lot of guilt about what happened with Esposito. Like, there's a lot of guilt, and Elizabeth has been willing to forgive him. And they're at this weird time in Port Charles where Elizabeth is very popular because she's like well known and she's got a public figure because of the press conference in book 2, and where her being engaged to Jason is not necessarily a bad thing because like the PCPD and the mayor are crap. Like, everybody, like they've just had all this public crap going on. So it's not like in another year things would be different, but like right now, Taggart, Scott, and Ned, because Ned's the mayor, Scott's the DA, and Taggart is the cop, they can all afford to go to the wedding and like not take a hit because nobody's thinking about it being Jason's wedding. They're thinking about it being Elizabeth's wedding. And Elizabeth she took down Vinny. Like, she's a public hero right now. So it's from the point of view of Taggart, and that's kind of fun. I get to introduce Taggart's storyline because I'm so excited. I'm giving him a love interest, which is something I said I wanted to think about doing, but I wasn't sure how to do it about it. And then the show, for once in their life, gave me something to work with. They brought Taggart back earlier this year and then killed him off because that's how you know they don't know what they're doing. They brought Taggart back and made him Trina's father. And since I decided in book 3, since we're getting baby Cam, we're getting baby Trina. So Taggart's going to be dating Portia, and Portia's sister is Tamika, who is going to be married to Justice. So I'm bringing in a set of sisters who are married, who are Justice and Taggart's love interests, and just kind of like flesh out the world of Port Charles and just give Taggart somebody to talk to because he's got a storyline coming up with investigating a murder that links back to Sunny. So I'm really excited to do more with Taggart in the story because up until now, even though he's been a kind of a big character, he is kind of it's been professional. It's all been cop-like, and we haven't really seen a lot of his inner life. So I'm excited to give you that. It's not that Trina is gonna we're not gonna see baby Trina in book 3, but like if there were an epilogue, if there were a book 4, baby Trina would be around. And then there's not going to be a book 4. Nobody get worried. I'm really done with this universe once we're done with this. And then I wrote, what else did I write? What's the second scene? Like an hour ago, and I already can't remember what I wrote. It's ridiculous. Oh, I wrote Jason and Luke. Jason is looking for someone else to make sure that Luke is, that Sunny is taken care of. And Luke is worried about Bobby because Luke is back, Laura is back. We are writing the version of Luke that I like, which is like the 94 to 98, like shady family man, the only version of Luke that isn't trash. So Luke's not going to be a main character. He's not even going to be a supporting character. He's just going to be somebody he's in the world. So just kind of giving Jason somebody else to bounce ideas off of because that's my favorite version of Luke. So I wrote that scene, and that was good. And then I wrote a really fun scene with Scott, Taggart, and Ned meeting the new police commissioner, because Matt got fired at the end of book 2. It's going to be Anna. I'm so excited to bring back Anna Devane. And Anna's got connections all over the world, so she's a really good person to have in charge right at this moment. I've got like people watching. You guys know you can chat in live chat and ask me questions, right? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was, there are actually people who are watching this, so just in case you didn't know this, there's like a chat on the side, and you can definitely say something and I can answer questions, but you do you, it's fine, no pressure. And as I was writing it, I realized this was a great way to add some exposition and to talk about what's been happening with Rick in the last 4 months. And so Anna gets to have this situation explained to her, and Ned tells him the reason he called this particular meeting is that he's got a source that has heard from Rick, and they find out his source is Jason, because Jason has decided that if Sonny finds Rick, Rick's going to get knocked off. But if Jason finds Rick, he can bring him back to Port Charles and fulfill his promise to Elizabeth and Carly to have a trial. And Jason's going to cooperate with the cops to make that happen, because to him, he remains convinced that Lansing is not business. He is personal, and he promised Elizabeth and Carly this moment. So that's what he's going to do. And so Anna, like, they're all very, very interested in this idea that Jason is willing to work with the cops against Sonny. And they realize that there is now, for the first time ever, daylight between Jason and Sonny. And that is something that they want to exploit, which I had not anticipated making that connection. I hadn't anticipated Ned admitting who his source was, but I thought, well, let's see what happens if he does. And then he did. So I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with that yet, because that was a nuance I hadn't expected. So that's what I'm going to be working with tomorrow. I'm going to spend a little time thinking about that tomorrow. That's really all I have for the writing update this week. I'm going to continue working on Mad World a couple of hours a day. I'm just about done school. School is done officially on Thursday. My last day is Friday, but my grades are in. Other than a couple of PD things I have to do with my elective team, there's nothing else. I haven't heard back about my interview, so hopefully we'll find out. Yeah, that's what I'm doing this week. I'm working on Mad World. My flash fiction, I'll be writing on Tuesday, Thursday, and next Saturday. A new part for each of those. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will be Broken Girl. So there's content for me every single day from Monday through Saturday, which is kind of cool. And then I'm continually working on Crimson Glasses Facelift, which I think possibly I already talked about at the beginning of this. I don't know. Can't remember now what I talked about. This is a little longer than I like my writing updates. They usually are about 10 minutes, but sometimes I get excited when I'm talking about things that are working. And for the first time in 2 months, Mad World is working. So we're going to celebrate that moment. All right. Thank you guys for anybody who came to watch. I hope that this was vaguely interesting and worth your time. I'm not always this rambly, but I usually am in the writing updates. I try. It's more relaxed and more informal here on Patreon. Sometimes I don't even wear makeup. That's not something anybody should ever say. Thank you guys for coming, and I'm gonna really end the stream now. I'm also notorious for saying goodbye 6 times before I think of something else to say. So bye, and thanks, Angela, for coming. Bye.